Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajanarandana. Yashodanandana Bhajajanarandana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa Purudikacharya Ashtotar Shishima. The Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON VPT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Mr. Paramahansa Purudikacharya Ashtotar Shishima. The Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. I know we could do something about that, but why don't we really try? Can you do something about it? What? Can you do something about it? Can it creak so much when it closes?
Outside recording.
Maybe that's what it is. You need a better closer too. Okay, just give me a second. Now, who knows exactly where we are here? Do you remember? 13 for sure, huh? 13, 14. No. Okay. No, we're in chapter 13. Text 13 must be. I don't think we did. Yeah, we went through that whole report. Right? Okay. Yes. It was long. It took several days.
And then we did 13 after that.
Did we? Oh. So we're on 14. 13, 14. Okay. Page 544. Bottom. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Can you turn that down a little bit? You know where the reds are on the right? Just pull it down one notch or so. Okay. On this 19th day of March 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 544 in chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Text 14. 13, 14. That's good, Jamal. Sarvatak panipadam tat Sarvatok chishiro mukham Sarvatak shuti maloke Sarvamavrityatishtati. That last word is avritya. Avritya. Sarvamavritya tishtati. Last line. Avritya. Vritya. Vritya. That's it. All right. Sarvatak panipadam tat Sarvatok shishiro mukham Sarvatak shutimaloke Sarvamavrityatishtati. Sarvatak panipadam tat Sarvatok shishiro mukham Sarvatak shutimaloke Sarvamavrityatishtati. Go ahead, Marcy. Sarvatak panipadam tat Sarvatok shishiro mukham Sarvatak shutimaloke Sarvam avrityatishtati. Sarvatak panipadam tat Sarvatak shishiro mukham Sarvatak shutimaloke Sarvam avrityatishtati. Sarvataha, everywhere. Pani, hands. Padam, legs. Tat, that. Sarvataha, everywhere. Akshi, eyes. Shidaha, heads. Mukham, faces. Sarvataha, everywhere. Shuti mat, having ears. Loke, in the world. Sarvam, everything. Avritya, covering. Tishtati, exists. Translation. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. Purport. As the sun exists, diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the Supersoul, or Supreme Personality of Godhead. He exists in his all-pervading form, and in him exist all the individual living entities, beginning from the first great teacher, Brahma, down to the small ants. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the Supersoul. Therefore, the Supersoul is all-pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that he has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That is not possible. If he thinks that under ignorance he is not conscious that his hands and legs are diffused all over, but when he attains to proper knowledge he will come to that stage, his thinking is contradictory. This means that the individual soul, having become conditioned by material nature, is not supreme. The supreme is different from the individual soul. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without limit. The individual soul cannot. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is a far distance away, how can he accept things? This is the omnipotence of the Lord. Even though he is situated in his own abode, far, far away from earth, he can extend his hand to accept what anyone offers. That is his potency. In the Brahma Samhita 537, it is stated, Goloka eva nivasatya khilatma bhutaha. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, he is all-pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all-pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the Supreme Soul, the Personality of Godhead, not the individual soul. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakya chakshu unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, Krishna has described the Kshetra and Kshetragya. He has described the knowledge, and now he's describing the goal of knowledge. There's Jnanam and there's Gyayam. This is Gyayam. Check text 13. He said, Gyayam yatat praplakshami. I shall now explain the knowable, the goal of knowledge, knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, beginneth and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So Brahman is the general description of this knowable, what we're aiming to know. And now in this text 14 and future verses he'll describe in more detail. Now it is sometimes said that how are these hands and legs and eyes and ears all over? How are they at thousands and thousands? How does the Sukala so has it? Well, one way that he has it is that all of our hands, or the hands of all of us human beings and even senses of the lower animals, they are all created by the Lord, they're overseen by the Lord, and ultimately they belong to the Lord. And so those are, our hands are actually His hands. And when we understand that and we engage our hands, as we engage our hands in our service, we engage our hands in His service, then we're properly situated. And that's the definition of devotional service. Sarva upadi vinimuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. This is given near the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The upadis, the concept of upadi is important. It is commonly defined as a designation, something that a false designation, that we apply to ourselves according to whatever body we're in and whatever mentality we have. In the human form, we have so many designations. We have a certain height, weight, an ethnicity, a gender, social station, all these different things. And all of them are false designations because they don't pertain to the soul, they only pertain to the body. So they're very ephemeral. Today we're 110 pounds, and in the next year we'll be 210 pounds. So what happened to our designation? So that's what this verse says, being liberated, free from these false designations, identifying oneself simply as a pure spirit soul, servant of the Lord. One who engages the senses in the service of the master of the senses. Rishika means senses, and Isha means Lord. So Rishikesha is a name for Krishna, the master of the senses. So in this case, Krishna is focusing on the super soul aspect of the Supreme, and that will go on in future verses. Now, Srila Prabhupada spends the purport distinguishing the individual soul from the Supreme Soul, from the super soul. This is a constant theme because the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, want to merge them. They even have an explanation, which I heard, which I will not share with you, of near the beginning of this chapter, where Krishna says, Chetra gyam chapi mam vidhi, sarva chetreshu bharata. Or sign of Bharat, descendant of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower. And there's this word cha, which means and. So in other words, there's two knowers. Somehow the impersonalists can misconstrue this verse by word jugglery to mean that the knower in the heart, where the soul is, that's also the super soul. So I am also the soul and the knower. In other words, there's no difference between the soul and the super soul. So they tend to misinterpret this Bhagavad Gita, and this is one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada wrote the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, and giving his commentary, which is all about bhakti, to combat the impersonalist view, which ruined people's lives. The history is, back in 1918, what was it? You maybe even know. When did Vivekananda come to America? You ever hear that name? In Chicago, he gave a speech, something like that, the 90s, 1890s. And he was a very eloquent speaker. He was highly educated, and he, got people going with this impersonal Mayavad idea that you are God. All you have to do is realize it, which can be very exciting if you really believe it, although it's false. And that's, that they established themselves before Prabhupada did, before Vaishnavism really got established in the West. You had the Ramakrishna Mission, Vedanta Society, that was another name for it, and So, very prominent in India, especially in Bengal, where Prabhupada came from. He had Ramakrishna mission and it was all over. So, this is one of the main battles that his spiritual master fought in preaching against the Mayavadis. And Prabhupada, periodically you see it reflected in the pages of the book. So, this is one of the ones where you tend to think, well, I'm God, so my senses are all pervading everywhere. I just have to realize it. I'm actually making the sun rise. Prabhupada encountered all of this when he came to America in the 60s. So he never got tired of arguing against it. Now, we have to expand our concept of what's possible when we read about Krishna. And one of the ways of doing that is hearing the Shastra, like Brahma Samhita. Prabhupada quotes from 37th verse here, Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuta, that it's describing how, which means that Krishna is there in the spiritual world, he's engaging in his activities eternally, but at the same time he's all pervasive. This doesn't compute with the way we understand things. If I'm over there, I can't be over here. If I'm here, I can't be there. But for the Supreme Spirit, Krishna, he can be both. We're on page 545. I'm sorry. So this verse is quite well known. It's the most commentated verse in the Brahma Samhita. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabis tabe eva nirupadaya kalabi golok eva nivasatya kilapa bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is always engaged in his pastimes, blissful pastimes, ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabis, with his expansions in the spiritual world. His internal expansions, the gopis and the other intimate associates. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavita. Rasa is that mellow, loving exchange. Kalabi means their expansions of his energy or internal energy. So it's going on in Goloka. He's there, but akilatma bhuta. Akilatma means within the heart of all. He's within our heart at all times. So this is very important to understand, because it means that Krishna is accessible by the proper means to every single one of us. And he has a personal concern for every single one of us. This is hard to conceive of because we're so limited in our understanding of what it means to be a person. We already take ourselves as the example. But he's completely personal. He has his form, his activities, his likes, his dislikes. But he also can have a relation with every single one of us. And this is why bhakti is such an enlivening thing. There's unlimited souls can relate to Krishna. And yet each one of us, even though there's unlimited souls, we can all have our personal relationship. It's almost like it's very Upanishadic. This is an Upanishadic passage of the Bhagavad Gita, the next few verses. Because it's like, there's a passage, I forget which Upanishad. Apani paro javana grihito chakshu. Apani paro javana. He has no hands. Pani is hand, one meaning for hand. But he can grab everything, anything, anywhere. He can accept your offering that you're giving here, there, or everywhere. So he has no hand, how he accepts the offering. He has no feet, but he can run everywhere. He can walk everywhere. He has no eye, but he can see everything. You know that thing? So it's like a koan. Isn't it like, doesn't it have a koan meaning? One hand clapping, you know. The idea is to break open your misconceptions, to expand your understanding of what can be possible for the Absolute. So this whole section here, beginning with text 14 that we read, you'll see that he's inside, but he's outside. Just like with Lord Nrsingadev. He's inside, he's outside, he's up, he's down, he's everywhere. How is that possible? So, sarvatak panipat, sarvatok shishado mukam, sarvatak shima, sarvamavrititichati. So, it has to be something supernatural to have hands and feet everywhere, to have eyes and heads and faces everywhere. And that's exactly what Krishna has. And so this is the knowable. The goal of all our knowledge, it's not that we're simply excited to be, searching for the absolute forever. Now the people get on that. They don't want to think there's an actual goal. When we hand them the book and say, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for the absolute truth. You're looking for happiness. You're looking for God. Here it is. But no. It must be more complicated than that. It can't be. It's the process. You just chant Hare Krishna. No, come on. Everybody knows Hare Krishna. It's got to be more intricate, more complicated. This is a subtle kind of Maya. People don't want to accept that the absolute truth is right in front of you, and you can know it by a certain process. So that's part of what we hear in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is speaking to us. The problem is we don't want to accept it. We have a barrier, and that's where faith comes in. The faith grows when you have some preliminary faith, you act on it, you do some practice, yoga, chanting, and you experience something, and the faith gets deeper because it's confirmed. It's confirmed in your own experience. So we can proceed. Any questions on this verse? Yeah.
I was thinking about how this verse, what is the vision of the pure devotee is always seeing Krishna in everything. And because in this sense, it's like, this is a description of Krishna's manifest Prabhu. But because a pure devotee has a relationship with God, a divine relationship with Krishna, that is not taken away by, or humbled by the presence of God and everything, because that would kind of be like breathtaking to see, like, I'm so insignificant, Krishna's still God.
There's a breadth of vision, so you can have both concepts at once. You never lose, the pure devotee never loses the sense of the intimate service to the Lord. But at the same time, he's aware of the greatness of the Lord. You find that even amongst the gopis, oftentimes we hear the gopis, they never knew that Krishna was God. They didn't want to know. But sometimes it breaks through. After all, you never forget that these are like great sages who are taking birth, right? From the Karanya forest, from the personified Vedas. They're all, at the end of the whole process, so they've been through it. So in the Song of Separation, in chapter 31 of the 10th canto, when the gopis are abandoned by Krishna in the rasa dance, this is one of the most famous, perhaps the most famous chapter in the Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 verses. I was here once. One fellow came, he wasn't even part of ISKCON, but he knew about the temple, and he walked in. It was a Vaishnava from another group. He had a different tilak, And he came to the kirtan, he was very respectful of everything. And afterward, he says, now I'm going to, chant the chapter 31. So I stood there with him, and he knew the whole thing by heart. And a lot of the Indians do. I remember one of my friends used to come to the class, he knew the whole chapter. It's about 19, it's short. So one of the verses near the beginning, it's very intricate, because the gopis are praying, Krishna, please, come back to us, and then, why did you abandon us? You cheated us. All these emotions are coming up. Like we read that. You remember the song to the bee? All kinds of things. She's berating Krishna, then she's afraid. Oh, maybe the bee took my message. So it breaks through, and they say, "Nakalo gopika nandano bhavan akaladehi nam antadatma drik vikandi sartito vishwagupta guptaye sakahube uvehivan sattvatam pati." Yeah, I'm sorry. Got to review these verses. So they're saying, Nakala gopika nandano bhavan, you're not actually the son of the gopi, Yashoda. Nakala gopika akaladehi nam. You are the all-pervading super soul within all the soul. Akaladehi antaratma drik. Antaratma drik literally means the witness within, the super soul. Then how did you come to Vrindavan? Vikani sartito vishwaguptaye. You were prayed to by Brahma. Remember at the beginning of the 10th canto where Brahma and all the demigods go to the ocean of milk and they pray, because there's too many demons on the earth, it's overburdened. And Brahma gets a message from Kshirodakshi Vishnu, don't worry, I'm coming, So the gopis aren't supposed to know about that, but here they are. You came in order to protect the universe. Saka udevan satvatam kule. And thus, O friend, you took your birth in the Satvata clan, in the Yadu dynasty. Like that. It's very interesting because they're defining Krishna, oh, you're the super soul, you're Kshirodakshi, Vishnu, Brahma, praise to you. But then they call him Sakha, oh friend. You see? You get this mixture. Then they come back down, and then a few verses later, who but a cheater like you would abandon women in the middle of the night? So it's like churning up all of these emotions. So it's like that. The pure devotee simultaneously has his intimate relation with Krishna, which he's enjoying at every moment, but at the same time, especially for preaching, we need to have a healthy understanding of who Krishna is, his glory and power. And then we can be inspired to chant our rounds and do everything we need to because, hey, this is God. But in the course of doing that, if we do it right, then the relationship becomes intimate and you can feel the personal protection of Krishna. They cut through the holy name and through the deity and everything else. It's a complete understanding of God. Both this and that. He's far away, he's here. We've got all our hands everywhere, and he's also taking our little offering with his own hand. It's amazing. All right, let's do another one. Text 15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhritchaiva Nirgunam gunabhoktracha. So here you'll see the paradox. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Purport. The Supreme Lord, although the source of all the senses of the living entities, doesn't have material senses like they have. Actually, the individual souls have spiritual senses, but in conditioned life, they are covered. The senses are covered with the material elements, and therefore the sense activities are exhibited through matter. The Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore called nirguna. Guna means the material modes, but his senses are without material covering. It should be understood that his senses are not exactly like ours. Although he is the source of all our sensory activities, he has his transcendental senses, which are uncontaminated. This is very nicely explained in the Svetasvara Upanishad 3:19 in the verse, and this is the one I just quoted. Apanipado Dvano Grahita. The Supreme Personality of God has no hands which are materially contaminated, but he has his hands and accepts whatever sacrifice is offered to him. That is the distinction between the conditioned soul and the Supersoul. He, the Supersoul, has no material eyes, but he has eyes. Otherwise, how could he see? He sees everything, past, present, and future. He lives within the heart of the living being, and he knows what we have done in the past, what we are doing now, and what is awaiting us in the future. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. He knows everything, but no one knows him. It is said that the Supreme Lord has no legs like us, but he can travel throughout space because he has spiritual legs. In other words, the Lord is not material. The Lord is not impersonal. He has his eyes, legs, hands, and everything else. And because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we also have these things. But his hands, legs, eyes, and senses are not contaminated by material nature. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms that when the Lord appears, he appears as he is by his internal potency. He is not contaminated by the material energy because he is the Lord of the material energy. In the Vedic literature, we find that his whole embodiment is spiritual. He has his eternal form called Satchid Ananda Vigraha. He is full of all opulence. He is the proprietor of all wealth and the owner of all energy. He is the most intelligent and is full of knowledge. These are some of the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the maintainer of all living entities and the witness of all activity. As far as we can understand from Vedic literature, the Supreme Lord is always transcendental. Although we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them, and when we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. Due to materially contaminated senses, we cannot see his form. Therefore, the impersonalists, who are still materially affected, cannot understand the personality of God. So, more of the paradoxical nature of the Lord. It's kind of summarized, in that essential phrase, Achincha Beda Beda Tattva. We should kind of learn that. We can learn that right now. Achincha means inconceivable. Beda means separate. And abeda means one with. Tattva. So he's the absolute truth who is inconceivably simultaneously one with and different from everything. So it's inconceivable. So don't be, sad if you can't understand it. So, but that's what's being talked about here. So he's the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He's the source of our senses, but he's without material senses. You see? He is unattached, though he's maintainer of all living beings. Now, I always wondered about this one. Why is it although? And the answer is that when you are a maintainer of someone or something, you become attached to it. It's also mentioned if you create something. When Brahma was about to create the universe, there's a beautiful chapter in the third canto, chapter 9, which we read some time ago. Brahma's prayers for creative energy. And one of his prayers there was that he wouldn't be attached and entangled in his creation. Because the natural thing is when you create something, you put yourself into it, and you become attached to it. You identify with it, like that. So the same thing is there if you maintain. That's why, a man and a wife, they work hard to maintain the household and the children. They're attached. They're committed to it. That's why they work to maintain it. So, but Krishna does it so effortlessly. He maintains everything, but he's unattached. He's not affected by all of the doings in this material world. The only reason he comes here is for us. He comes here to enact sweet pastimes so that we can have something to meditate on. And he also comes to speak Bhagavad Gita, to train up some who will be left behind, who will represent him like that. All simply so that we can wake up from our dream of material life, which is really a nightmare, which we don't accept as such. So part of that is understanding this all-pervasive nature of the Lord. And when we see him, we can begin to see him. The curtain can be raised, if you will. Kunti has this very graphic phrase in her prayers. Maya japanikatchanam magyarokshadamabhiyam nalakshase buddha dashadato natado yata. The japanikatcha is a curtain. You're covered, or people's eyes are covered by the curtain of Maya. So agyarokshaja abhyayam. And therefore these ignorant people, they cannot see you. The very word adhokshaja, the name of Krishna, adhokshaja, means beyond the range of material senses. In other words, transcendental. That's really the meaning of transcendental. And so people can't see you, even though you're there everywhere, through your energies, you're within the heart. The evidence of, just like these crazy scientists, where you convince yourself that everything is somehow arisen by chance, by billions and millions of years of random activity, rudimentary. One thing that's interesting, because you say, well, simple one-celled organisms, after billions and billions of years of chemicals moving around and being hit with rays, cosmic rays, a little one-celled animal, came about. And then after many, many more millions of years, came about and a little more complicated. Isn't that their theory? They don't think there's a God there. No, we can't have any God. No intelligence. No intelligent design allowed. So what is it left? What's left? Random. It's right in the Gita. This is what the demons think. They say, asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram aparasparasambhutam kimanyat kamahoitikam. How could it be anything else but attraction and repulsion and random activities? This is what the demons say. They declare it. They say there's no God in control. There's no ultimate truth. There's no foundation. This is the first verse describing the demons. So they've convinced themselves of this, and there's whole books written in schools taught. But they're not. There's always more to discover. They periodically have to rip up the theory. But anybody can understand where there's all of this incredible organization and our own intelligence and the human body and the way things are working so nicely. There must be Someone who's organized it all is supreme intelligence. Isn't it? Doesn't that make sense?
And Prabhupada's butterfly comes from life. He equates the idea that like all this organization of life came about by Big Bang. The analogy that it's like the printer shop exploded in the dictionary.
Yeah. Maybe if it happened a billion, 100 billion, million times, you know, it would happen. Like they might have, right? Isn't it 1,000 monkeys sitting in there typing away? They'll type Shakespeare eventually. Anyway, this makes much more sense to me. So Apanipada, he quotes the same verse that I quoted, you know, and so he's unattached, although he's maintaining. He transcends the modes at the same time as the master of all the modes of material nature. So this is, you know, one of the reasons. I mean, as human beings, we're meant to be interested in this type of thing, in searching out the source of everything, the inconceivable Lord. We learn that from the Vedanta Sutra. This is the human life. When we forget about that, and we convince ourselves that it doesn't matter or there's no God, then what are we going to do? We become absorbed in matter. And you remember this wonderful verse from the personified Vedas. Asadupasana yatma hano yadanushaye bamantu udubaye kusharira batak. That's the last half of the verse. So those who worship the asat, matter, they commit spiritual suicide. Atma hano. Literally means it. And what's the result? Of course, they can't really commit spiritual suicide. I mean, you can't kill a soul, but it means that, you know, they postpone their self-realization for a long time. And they wander throughout this universe and receiving all kinds of bad bodies. The beginning of the verse describes the glory of the human body, which is suitable to serve the Lord. It's the one way out. It's the only juncture by which we can actually achieve the goal of life. But if you waste it, and if they don't take their pleasure in serving you, my Lord, then they must worship the matter and try to get pleasure from there. And the result of that is the intelligence is covered, and they continue to wander throughout this world. So we've come to the point of inquiring, and we have the right source right here. So all of this should be fascinating, and how the Lord is all-pervading, and He's with us. Prabhupada says He knows everything. Veda ham samatitani, he's quoting from the 7th chapter. Krishna says, I know everything past, I know everything that's happening now, everything's going to happen in the future, but me no one knows. You know? So then what's the point of understanding, trying to understand Krishna? He will reveal Himself to us proportionally to our surrender. We can't know anything about Krishna or about God, about the Absolute on our own. We can speculate here and there to eternity. But we need to humbly recognize our inability to understand, just as Arjuna did at the beginning of the Gita. Approach Krishna or His representative and hear and accept the knowledge and try to apply it in our lives. Okay, what else we got here? Okay, we got another short one here. Bahirantashta bhutanam acharam chadamevacha Sukshmatvat tada digyayam durastang chantike chatat. The supreme truth, now here you go again, we're right in the Upanishads. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because He is subtle, He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, He is also near to all. Purport. In the Vedic literature, we understand that Narayan, the Supreme Person, is residing both outside and inside of every living entity. He is present in both the spiritual and material worlds. Although He is far, far away, still He is near to us. These are the statements of Vedic literature. Here again, Upanishad. See, Katupanishad. Asino duram vajati shayano yati sarvataha. And because He is always engaged in transcendental bliss, we cannot understand how He is enjoying His full opulence. We cannot see or understand with these material senses. Therefore, in the Vedic literature, language, it is said that to understand Him, our material mind and senses cannot act. But one who has purified his mind and senses by practicing Krishna consciousness in devotional service can see him constantly. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that the devotee who has developed love for the Supreme God can see him always without cessation. And it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 11:54 that he can be seen and understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya pranamniya shakya. Prabhupada is also referencing a verse he would often quote, Atakshi Krishna namari nabave grayam indriya. Seva mukhe hijivado swayabeva spuratiraha. That says it all. The holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna cannot be understood or grasped. Grayam means grasp, by our material senses or mind. But if one begins serving him, sevon mukhe jiva, beginning with the tongue, chanting his name, taking prasad, and of course hearing. If you're chanting, you should be hearing. Then eventually the purification will be there and he will reveal himself. So it's all Krishna who responds to our sincere effort. Even though we're so crippled in our ability to understand, he sees the bhakti, he sees the sincerity of your trying to follow the Shastra and the Guru, and he reveals himself proportionally. This is the special quality of the bhakta that's not there in any other discipline. The yogi is all on his own. He may bring his will to bear, controlling the senses, pranayama, but that's not pleasing to Krishna. He can get some understanding, if by a few can rise up to the Brahman effulgence, and become transcendental for some time. But without a standing in the spiritual world, being averse to the personality of Godhead, because our nature is persons, we want to have the personal relationship, they fall down again. Aruha krichena padam padam tata papantyadho anadvita yushmarandriya. Because they're averse to serving your lotus feet, in other words, they don't want to think that there's an ultimate person, they eventually come back down, even though they perform these austerities. But devotees, come together, chant and hear, do a little service, take prasad, chant Hare Krishna. They can easily, Krishna will be pleased with them if they avoid the offenses. Okay, now before we proceed, we're going to pick up there on text 16, no, we read 16, 17, at the top of 548 when I come back. I'm going for about almost a month, starting tomorrow. Yeah, I told you about it.
No, I'm going for 1 month.
It's almost a month. I'll be back on the 16th of April. So it's not quite a month, and I don't know if I'll be able to have a class that night with all of the travel. But can you stay in touch with Damodar? And I have your. Yeah. So I'll let you know. But we have 15 minutes more, and we should read a little bit of the Nectar Devotion, which I think we're on now. Oh, am I wrong? Well, let me see, because I have this marked. Okay, we read about Pajumna, right? Pajumna born? Yeah. No, the message of the gopis still? Yes, we're still reading the message of the gopis. And I don't think we finished this. That Uddhava, did he finish? Did he leave Vrindavan yet? Do you remember? I don't think so.
Oh, Uddhava?
Uddhava. Yeah, he was there, and that's with the Song of the Bee, and then he watched the gopis.
Yeah, and then he goes back and consults with Krishna.
So we read that. Finish the chapter.
I don't think we did that.
Anyway,
I do have a question.
go ahead.
Rukmini, is her name?
Yes.
How is she different from Radha?
Well, all of these queens, they're all expansions of Radharani. But, yeah. But Radharani has a different nature. There's a queen that, you see, it's said that all of the gopis, they eventually, this is in the Lalita Madhava, they took their birth as the queens. And the queen that most reflects Radharani's nature is Satyabhama. She has a fiery personality. She insisted on going with Krishna to the heavenly planets and into battle on the back of Garuda as he fought the Narakasura. She's there in the battle. Rukmini was that. Krishna got this parijata tree and planted it in Rukmini's garden, and so Satyabhama wanted one. So she insisted. So he took her to Indoloka, and he uprooted the tree, and Indra said, "No, you can't take the parijata." He said to Krishna, "It only belongs in the heavenly planet." So there was a little battle there, and he had to take it back to Satyabhama. So, but the main contrast is Radharani, Srimati Radharani, at least in the most, how do you say it? The basic understanding is that Krishna was not married to Radharani. That's the big difference. And Rukmini was his first queen. He was the first one he got married to. He kidnapped her, and there was some others he kidnapped her. But most of the queens were princesses who were daughters of kings that had been arrested and captured by Narakasura. So when he killed Narakasura and he freed all these girls, the Vedic culture is any girl who's been in the company of another man can't get married. So they said, well, our only hope is if you marry us all. 16,100. So I said, okay, come on, come to Dwarka. And he'd sell them all each in their own palace, like, please Krishna, he could do what he wants. So, but so the main external difference is that they're all, married, they follow, Krishna has children, from the other. But the gopis is not like that. It's called Parakiya versus Swakiya. The Parakiya is the lawless love. The gopis are breaking all the rules. They go out in the middle of the night with Krishna and dance with him. So there's a heightened intensity, and the main thing is the mood of separation. Most of the time, even when he's living there in Vrindavan, they don't see him very much. He goes out and they're at home doing the chores, and he's out in the forest. Then he comes back. They see him for a few minutes, and then he's back home. But of course, he would sneak out, and then Rasa dances there. But and then the years he leaves, and then he's gone for years. So they're all pining away in Vrindavan. But the thing is, their love never wanes, and they're always completely faithful to him and absorbed in thought of him more intensely than being with him. That's the idea. So therefore, it's our philosophy, Gaudiya Vaishnava, following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who exalted the gopis above all other devotees, and was in that mood the last 12 years. The exact mood that we just are finishing reading in this chapter 47, this is what he reflected. Is the gopis separated and longing and chanting about Krishna and like that. So the gopis are in the highest position, and Radharani is the highest of those. So Radharani means she who pleases Krishna best with her worship.
So when he marries Rukmini,
that was the first.
is she still existing in Vrindavan?
No. Rukmini was in Dwarka. And she's there in the spiritual world. There's different parts of the spiritual world. In Goloka Vrindavan, there's Braj, which is Gokula. That's where Krishna's a boy and the cowherd boy. There's Mathura, and then there's Dwarka. And Dwarka, there's all of the queens set up there eternally. They have their form.
So it's like time progresses.
Well, no. In the spiritual world, there's no time.
Oh.
But here, there was when Krishna enacted him here, there was a time. He was a child, and then he went to Mathura, and he killed Kamsa, and he set up there because, it was revealed, I'm actually the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, who had been, so he freed them. And then he stayed there. He promised to come back, but he couldn't come back right away. There's the whole thing. So, and then he took up his different life. Now it's actually a prince. I'm the son of the king, Kshatriya. So he kind of gave up his coward pastimes. And he started with that. And then that lasted a while. He fought Jarasan so many times. He's annihilating his forces, sending them back to God. And then Kalyavana came. I don't know, I think we read that. Suddenly in the 18th time, Jarasan comes. There's another big army also attacking Mathura.
Yes,
So
right.
he ran away. So he ran away from Kalyavana. Kalyavana couldn't catch him. He running. You remember what happened with Kalyavana? He went into the cave.
Oh, yeah.
And who was in there? You remember the name?
Well,
Muchukunda.
there's a kid, and this man woke up and burned this
Kalyavana with his,
ashes.
Yes, he had the benediction from the demigods who he'd helped fight, and fighting off the demons. So after a while, they said, "Well, you can have any benediction you want." He said, "I just want to sleep," you know. And so they said, "Yes, and we'll give you the benediction. Whoever wakes me untimely, I will burn to ashes with my." So Krishna knew all that. So he hid in the cave behind a boulder, and Kalyavana comes in and sees a sleeping man. He thinks it's Krishna. He kicks him, wakes up Muchukunda, and Muchukunda burns him to ashes. So then there's a whole thing. Muchukunda worships Krishna, comes out, and he was asleep so long that everything had shrunk. You know, he comes out, the trees are smaller, people are smaller, you know, so he goes, "Oh, I got to get out of here." So he goes up to heavenly planets. And then, so then, you know, Krishna, before he did this whole thing with leaving, he transported all the residents of Mathura to Dwarka. He had it built by Vishwakarma, or Mayadava or something. And so it was like, it's fortress, it's in the ocean, you know, impenetrable. That's the whole idea, you know, it's safe. And then, so they were fighting over an empty city, really. But so after, you know, Krishna left and he climbed the mountain, Jarasan went after him also, and he and Balaram ran, and they ran, they couldn't catch him. They went up on a mountain, and they lit the fires, and they jumped off, just like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You remember that movie? It's before your time. I saw it for many years. I said, when I first read this in the movement, I said, "My God, that's just like the movie." Somebody. So Jarasan thought, "Oh, I killed them. They're gone. They must have perished in the fire." So he went back home. He took his army, you know. And then later on, Krishna visits him with Bhima and Arjun, and Bhima kills Jarasan in an individual fight. Anyway, it goes on like that. So now we've exhausted our time. So when I return, we'll pick up again with the Nectar of Devotion, or the Krishna book. We'll see which one. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Where am I going? Alachua, and then to Columbus, Ohio.
Each place?
Yeah, I'm spending 2 weeks in Alachua, which is a long time.
Where's Alachua?
Alachua is in northern Florida. It's near Gainesville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's where the ashram is.
yeah, big.
There is beautiful.
It's beautiful. Big temple, beautiful deities, 700 devotees.
Wow. Really big.
But they don't all come to my life. And they have a big festival. The temple is too small. And then it was about this size. So, I might be able to stay for the Prasad portion.
Okay. That's what I'm
Can you for just 1 minute for you? What's up? I'm gonna grab the-
Yeah, I'm not going. I'm going to be here for the kirtan.
Oh,
Not for the Prasad. That's it.
okay. Well, then we'll wait.
I think tomorrow morning, 6:30. Krishna His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Bhagavad Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Srila Paramahamsa Acharya Ashtotara Srishima Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur jai. Asante Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur jai. Thank you, Bhagavan Sri Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavan Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govinda Shami Bhagavad Gita Govinda ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga ki jai. Yamuna ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vinita ki jai. All glory to the Son of the Lord, all
he helps wash plates on Sunday. He was helping wash.
Yeah. Oh, this?
Yeah.
And then I think daughter and
No, just one Russian lady. She's 80